This week, you're going to get the rundown on all the really cool experiences had at Rhode Island Comic Con with guests from the Back to the Future universe, the Marvel universe, the My Hero Academia universe, and so much more. We also talk about a few rumors and news happening out there in the Marvel universe and give you a sneak peek into our thoughts of the Agatha All Along finale. Welcome to the Infinite Taylorverse.
Warning.
Red alert.
Ay, 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 ay!
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger.
That's the emergency alert. This episode is full of spoilers for some of the latest and greatest nerdy movies and shows.
Spoilers.
Listener discretion is advised.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Infinite Taylorverse Podcast. I'm Billie Taylor.
And I'm Taylor Oxner.
And this week we're back to talk about all the fun, awesome things going on out there in the pop culture universe. But as usual, before we jump into that, Taylor, what have you been nerding out about this week, man?
This week I saw the movie The Librarian for the first time.
Oh, nice.
Have you ever seen it?
Okay, so I'm thinking of probably the wrong thing. Which movie is it?
It's with the Spear of Destiny and
Oh,
Bob
yeah, yeah.
Newhart's in it.
Yep, okay, that's exactly what I'm thinking of, because it's a series,
all right,
too.
yeah. So I guess this is like one of those things like Firefly, like has like a big like audience that it kind of exists and doesn't at the same time.
Right.
And it's like a lot of fun. It kind of reminds me of the group of actors and writers and directors that hangs out with James Gunn and Nathan Fillion and Joss Whedon and the Dollhouse people and the Firefly people. Like it seems like that grouping of people, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I get that same vibe from it.
Yeah, I can see that. By calling it similar to Firefly, you're absolutely right. It's got a definite cult following, very niche group of people that enjoy this. I'm one of them, and so is Emily. Emily doesn't always like the same stuff I like, but that's one she actually really liked as well.
Yeah, it's very like it's PG-13, but it's barely PG-13.
Right. It's closer to the PG side.
Yeah, and some of the effects aren't the best.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure those were whatever you call it, made for TV movies when they
Is
came
that
out.
okay? All right. So was my next question because this is the first time I've seen it. So I saw the first one, and that makes a whole lot more sense if they were made for TV beforehand.
And aren't there 2 or 3 of them, right? And then there's a series.
So this collection is 3
Okay.
that I have. So I just watched the first one, and it's about the Spear of Destiny, which, if you don't know, is like also the plot of like 7 other movies.
Right.
It reminded me a lot of National Treasure.
Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of Indiana Jones.
Oh, definitely.
I would put it in the same, almost kind of even remind me of Doctor Who in a weird way.
That's an even better comparison than Firefly because it definitely feels like early Doctor Who, even the way it's filmed and everything.
Yeah.
I should say early modern Doctor Who.
Yeah. So if you're into like action adventure and like just clean fun, I think that's the way to go. There's like a lot of innuendo in it, but it's like really tongue-in-cheek stuff. I don't know. I could recommend it, but I feel like it's one of those things like people will come back and be like, "You like that?"
Yeah.
I mean it's just fun. It's Indiana Jonesy fun. And if you like that kind of stuff, cool. And if you don't, avoid it with the plague because you'll hate it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when you're done with the movies, I don't know what streaming service it might be on, but there's a whole series that came afterwards. And the series is just called The Librarians. And
Yeah, it's not like, and it was a short-lived series, right?
yeah, it went 2 or
Okay,
3
like
seasons, I think.
but wasn't it only supposed to be 2 or 3 seasons?
I feel like
Wasn't
it got canceled if I remember correctly.
Okay. For some reason I thought it was like a self-contained thing, but
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so my nerding out this week is I just got back from Rhode Island Comic Con, and man, it was crazy awesome. just the whole thing. It's really weird. They have all their what's the word I'm looking for? All their promotional items, their posters and everything says the biggest con in the littlest state. And I think there's only a couple of cons in the country bigger than this one because my gosh, it was jam packed with easily. I think someone said over 100,000 people, and
Wow.
yeah, it was crazy. It was 3 buildings joined together by skywalks. It was their hockey arena, their convention center, and the Omni Hotel, and they're all connected. And there was something in every building. All the panels were in the Omni Hotel. The hockey arena had some vendors as well as a big chunk of the celebrities, and they had over 100 celebrities appear at this thing. And then the convention center had multiple floors worth of stuff. One floor was all the vendors. A different part of the floor was a bunch more celebrities. And then the 5th floor, the top, was where photo ops took place, and then only the Back to the Future celebrities. They had their own roped off area of the building. Oh, they also had a VIP lounge, which was cool. It was a room, if people had VIP passes, it was full of couches and tables and things like that. And I thought that was a cool incentive to get someone to buy VIP stuff. But gosh, it was insane. And Friday was fine. It was not like a bunch of sardines. And that's the case with most cons, even, any con I've ever been to. But Saturday, my gosh, was shoulder to shoulder. You never, ever had a moment of where you could pull your arms out, pretty much.
Did it drive you crazy?
It kind of
by the end
did.
of the day?
It kind of did. And I have so few complaints. This was an amazing experience. My one complaint was they probably oversold tickets. And I was told by other guests who are from that area that in the past, the fire marshal literally came and had to start kicking people out, people who paid. And they were surprised it wasn't happening this past Saturday as well.
Wow.
But man, it was a lot of fun. My experience meeting the folks from Back to the Future, you know me, I'm not really that shy, but if something's kind of touching to me, I get all choked up. And just meeting these people face to face had me super choked up almost. And
So, what was he like?
so Michael J. Fox was the only one that they treated us like cattle. It was like move, 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 move. They told us don't say anything, don't touch anything, don't take any pictures. It was like shoom, shoom, shoom. So this line was crazy huge, but it was probably the fastest line in the whole arena.
Wow.
I literally looked at him while he was signing a Funko Pop for me, and I said, "Thanks, man," and he winked at me, and that was the end of our personalized interaction.
How
um,
cool is he?
oh man, it was so cool, and
He winked at you?
yes,
That's so cool. It's so 80s cool.
right. I was already overwhelmed with nostalgia and happy emotions, but then on the flip side, he's getting older, and man, his Parkinson's disease is really progressing.
He really was his medicine really working? Was he shaking?
He was
Or
super
shifting?
shaky, having a lot of trouble walking. I got to go to his panel. The Back to the Future panel was the only ticketed panel. You could not get in without a special ticket.
Yeah.
And man, I got the hookup. I wasn't in the front row. The very, very front row was the ADA row where people with disabilities didn't have to wait in line. They could just go sit. So people with, wheelchairs and whatnot. So I was in technically the second row, but the front row of, general ticket havers or whatever. And man, when he walked out, the crowd lost their minds and were roaring. But again, you know me, like I get choked up so easily. Just him, the way he walked out, it was very, very difficult for him. And then when he talks, he moves his head a lot, like left to right, left to
Yeah,
right. So
yeah.
it was getting hard for to hear him in the mic. And man, it was like I could hear him because I was in the front row, but I know people in the back. There was no way they could hear everything he was saying. But I got teary eyed so many times watching this dude. This cool hero of mine from when I was a kid. Just be human. Be human dealing with human illness.
Yeah.
But man, he was awesome. Now, the other 3 folks from Back to the Future, I got to be more personalized with those guys. The first one I got in line for was Christopher Lloyd. And man, first of all, he's getting old too, but he's still funny and spry. And
It always kind of blew my mind how still with it he was, how he is.
yeah,
How old is he? Because
So-
I felt like he was old when we were kids.
he was. Let's see. 86. He's 86 years old.
How is he only 86?
Right? That means if he's 86, he was only 46 in Back to the Future then.
Dang, I would have thought he was in his 70s.
Right? But, half the movie, they had him done up to be much older. And then he goes back to the 50s for most of the movie. So he would be 40s in that era. And then when the sequel comes around and he pulls up and looks like an old man, but he pulls all that, old man makeup off and he says, "Sorry, I didn't want to freak you out. I got an age rejuvenation treatment in the next century."
Yeah,
So that he could play the rest of the movie looking his typical age.
that's so crazy.
But yeah, he was cool. I had a Funko Pop for him to sign, and I told the other three that I was allowed to talk to almost the same thing. I just told each of them, thank you for all the years of joy that you bring people, and you brought me in my own life. And he looked real sincere and was like, thank you, thanks for telling me that. And it was just really nice. But his line was rightfully so, the second biggest. So I didn't have too much time to talk to him. Over with Leah Thompson, the mom, she was so nice. She asked me if I'm from around here, and I said, no, I'm actually from Kansas City. And she was like, oh my gosh. I said, yeah, I flew a long way to meet you guys. And she was like, that's so cool. And I said the same thing. Man, this movie's brought me so much joy over the years. And I brought up that I'm a teacher, and I've got so much cool, nerdy stuff, including a lot of Back to the Future stuff all over my classroom. And when she signed my Funko Pop, she was like, now get over here. And I was like, oh, I didn't pay for a selfie. She's like, I don't care. Get over here. We're taking one. And so she made me take another one with her, and that was kind of nice and cool. And she gave me a great big hug and thanked me for being a teacher. And it was really awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome.
And then the next line was Tom Wilson, who is Biff. And it's funny because Biff is one of the best antagonists of movie history. And
Yeah.
Tom Wilson is a hilarious comedian. He's not a bully at all.
Yeah.
So kind of the same thing. Is like, you from around here? And I was like, oh, no, I'm from Kansas City. He's like, Kansas City? And he starts singing the Kansas City song, the jazz song. And
Yeah.
told him how much I love the movie. And Biff is such a great villain. And that character brings so much to those movies. And what did he say? I can't remember his exact words, but he went into Biff mode and said something like, he was such a butthead, and like, it was really funny. And
That is cool.
But he wrote in my Funko Pop and like had to keep the line moving. But man, it was really cool. And the only one that really made me get all teary-eyed was Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
But those were awesome. Other stuff at the con, I got in line and met some of the My Hero Academia people. J. Michael Tatum, he's Ida, and Brandon McInnes is Sir Night-Eye, and Lucy Christian is Uraraka. And they were so cool. I told them how much my kid loves them, and my students, and everything. And actually, those three each did a really cool shout-out for the Taylorverse / my students. I'll throw that in right here.
Hi, Taylorverse. Y'all sound really awesome, and you now have to do everything your teacher tells you.
And let these guys know, who are you, man?
Oh, I'm J. Michael Tatum. This guy. I do all those voices.
Right
and
here.
I also play him.
You're pretty good at him, man.
I try.
Awesome.
Every day I get a little better. So
Sweet.
Hello everyone in the Taylorverse, I'm here with Mr. Taylor, and keep watching anime. Thank you for watching it. You're the best. Bye!
Hey, Taylorverse. I've got a new friend here.
Is it the Taylorverse? Ah, Taylorverse. Hi. I'm Lucy Christian. I'm the voice of Otako Uraraka, and I hear that there are some really amazing heroes in your class. I'm just here to tell you to go beyond plus ultra. You have the coolest teacher ever.
But yeah, they were so cool. And also got to meet Richard Horvitz, who's the voice of a gazillion cartoons, including the voice of the original Alpha 5 on Power Rangers.
Oh, that's cool.
So he signed my Alpha 5 Funko Pop, and I'm saving a spot on the other side for Sandy to sign one day. But he was also the voice of Invader Zim. He also did a cool shout out. I'll throw that in here too.
Hello, Taylorverse! Why was there bacon in the soup?
Let's see, met Janet Varney, who's the voice of Korra from Legend of Korra, the second Avatar series. She was so nice. And we were talking and came up that I was a teacher. Her mom was a teacher. I said, would you ever do a shout out for my club, my kids or whatever? And she was like, I'm not supposed to do that without charging a whole lot of money. But she pulled out a sticky note and wrote her personal email on it and gave it to me and said, after this is all said and done, send me an email, remind me of this moment, and I will do a shout out for you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so awesome. So
That's cool.
I'll throw that into a future episode down the road. Let's see, D. Bradley Baker, who we've talked about in the past. We had a whole episode of the podcast with him, and I forgot to bring my Commander Cody Funko Pop for him to sign. And he was at this convention, so I brought that. And he absolutely remembered me and my students and all that, which you can tell when they're being friendly, but he was clear that he remembered, Zooming my students and everything, and that was kind of cool. I also went through, Thomas Lennon, Officer Dangle from Reno 911.
It's amazing.
Him and the other guys were wearing, their outfits from the show, and he had on his Daisy Dukes and his boots, and oh my gosh. As soon as you walked around the corner, he was never behind a booth. He was always around in front of his table, like, hey, what are you doing? Talking all cop-like. What are you doing? Take it easy out there. It's dangerous. Being so goofy. But when he said, what are you doing? I was like, oh, just goofing. And he's like, new boot goofing, and he jumps and does the kick, and like... But I had him sign my Mixus Pitalik Funko Pop because that's who he played on Supergirl. He thought that was kind of cool.
Was that his first one to sign?
You know, I should have asked him. I didn't ask him. I should have. Maybe later I'll go look and see if some of these flippers, which by the way, I'm so sick of flippers. They've made these Funko Pop autographs so expensive, but I digress. I'll go see if there's any flipped ones on the internet and then I'll know. If I don't see one, maybe it is the first. I don't know. But let's see. Oh, I got to meet Jenna Frank, who is the daughter of Jason David Frank, and she signed a different Green Ranger Funko Pop that I have for me. That was really cool. And I told her about, my history with her dad between social media and my childhood loving the show and him coming to Kansas City a few times and being on our podcast. And her exact words were, "I love your energy so much. Can I please give you a hug?" And I said, yes. And she hugged me, and she probably asked to do that about 3 times during our interaction. It was really sweet. And it was a cool interaction. And it was really cool that
You
someone's
tell.
out there keeping his legacy going. I could tell my story was touching her too. And she kept saying, "Thank you for me telling all this stuff." And she's like, "When you get home," she's like, "I want you to tag me on this photo." And I don't know, it was really cool. I also got to meet Jennifer Walters and Madison. So Tatiana Maslany and Patty Guggenheim. And out of all these other celebrities, other than Back to the Future people, 2 lines were crazy. Tatiana was one of them. I had to get in a really long line, but she was super sweet. And Patty Guggenheim, who played Madison, was also so funny. And when she asked me what I wanted her to put on the Funko Pop, when I said, "Could you put Wongers?" Like, she laughed so hard. And then she did.
Wongers?
Yes.
That's amazing.
And Tatiana put She-Hulk Smash on her Funko Pop, and that was kind of cool.
That's way cool.
And speaking of these Marvel characters, I got to get in line and meet Peggy, aka Dogpool. She was just a good little girl. Good little dog. And it's one of those so ugly it's cute. That's exactly how it was in real life.
She was a lot bigger than I thought she was.
Yeah, and
like in the movie it made her look smaller, I feel like.
Yeah. And it's funny how they had it set up because, the rule was when you finally got in the room with the dog, they had her curtained off so that the crowd wouldn't be overwhelming with people everywhere because, gosh, there were so many people. But you go inside the curtain, there's a little couch, and you just get to sit right next to her. And I said, "Can I pet her?" And they said, "Yes, but please wait till the photo's over because if you pet her, she'll look at you instead of us." And I was like, "Oh, that makes perfect sense." So I just put my hand down and she was looking at the camera. It's so funny. They were holding a box of lunch meat, a little package of lunch meat, waving the lunch meat so she would look at the camera. And when it was all said and done, they took the picture and then gave her the lunch meat and we got to pet all over and it was super sweet.
That's cute.
It was also cool. $5 out of every purchase they made went to the local Humane Society in the city we were in Providence, Rhode Island.
I thought you were about to say $5 gets her another thing of lunch meat.
Oh, I mean, probably. But other than the Back to the Future people, Tatiana Maslany's line was crazy, but the dog pool line was crazy, crazy, crazy. I almost didn't get to get a photo with her.
Wow.
The line was so big that's what was making the employees fear that the fire marshal was going to come.
Wow.
And then hearing that and knowing that $5 from every single purchase goes to the Humane Society, I know those people got a chunk of change this weekend.
Must have.
I'm trying to think of the list here. I think there's only one more person that I went to meet. And there were a few other people I was going to meet, and I just last minute decided, it's a little more costly than I'm wanting for those particular items or signatures. So instead, I went and got a photo with Mara Wilson, who was the little girl from Matilda and Mrs. Doubtfire.
Okay.
And that was really cool. It's weird seeing these people that in your brain is this tiny child, but they're, pretty much your age. It's really weird.
That is weird.
A couple other cool experiences. I went to a few panels. So my friend Ben Beck, who does the Wilhelm podcast, he's been on our podcast in the past and I've been on his, and he moderated a handful of panels and I went to 2 of them. He also did one with Matthew Lewis from Harry Potter, who played Neville, but that interfered with me getting to go take photos with and meet the Back to the Future guys. So I wasn't able to go to that panel, but I went to his panel that he moderated for John Cleese. And oh my gosh, John Cleese was so funny. He's telling all these stories about how he says that he considers himself a woke person, but woke in the right way, where he wants, justice and equality. But he's like, he's getting tired of wokeness in the sense of people trying to censor comedy. And I can tell my friend Ben was like, "Oh, where's this going?" But he made some good points. Comedy's comedy. People need comedy. But anyway, long story short, when the crowd got to get in line and ask him questions, he was kind of roasting everyone that asked him a question. I got in the line, and when I said, "Hi, my name is Billie, I'm from," and that's about all I could get out. After I said, "My name is Billie," he says, "Who cares, you conceited bastard." Like, He's like, "What's your question?" And the crowd's dying. And I asked him a question about something about animation, I think, because he's been in a lot of animated voices. But anyway, moving on, I guess, I can check off my bucket list that I got called a conceited bastard by John Cleese.
Yeah, by a member of Monty Python.
Yes.
That's so crazy.
Hi there, my name is Billie, and I'm
not interested in your name. What's your
Fair, fair enough.
egotistical bastard?
I get it. And he was roasting everyone. He started telling all these jokes that I could tell it was a little like, oh, these are funny, but like, should you be saying these? And then
He doesn't give a crap.
he
He's so old.
He does not. And the only person in line he did not roast was this real young girl, which I could tell he's like, I'm not gonna go there. But every adult he roasted. It was funny.
Well, good. I'm glad. You all deserve it.
Right?
For not being as prim and proper as he is.
And then the Back to the Future panel, I'm telling you, sitting in that front row, hearing all the stories, I got teary-eyed. I can remember about 3 times, but it was almost nonstop, and it was just so emotional, so overwhelming. And hearing Tom Wilson talk about Biff was really cool. He said when he was in school, he was this scrawny little thing, weighed nothing, soaking wet, He was bullied all the time. And then somewhere around 11th grade, going into senior year, he's like, over that summer, it was like, you could hear my bones cracked, and I turned into this giant before you. And he's like, suddenly, I wasn't getting bullied anymore. And fast forward to the movie, he's like, I channeled all that stuff that I experienced, and that's how I kind of created Biff. And it was really cool. And he said another cool experience he had is over the years, he's had actual real life bullies reach out to him and, ask about bullying. And he basically would tell him, look, you got to go apologize for these things and you got to not do it again. And he said it's just some cool experiences like that of people deciding, after seeing Biff be this jerk, realizing like, oh crap, I'm like that. I don't need to be doing that. They all had really cool stories like that. And I still am floating on that nerd high. I still can't believe it happened. And yeah, it was amazing.
It sounds like one of those core memory moments or like events in your life.
100%. And the cosplay was great. The amount of food vendors, I never had to wait in line for food. Never. Like more than 3-4 minutes. It was crazy.
No, that is insane.
Yes. And it was just the sheer amount of places that had food. It was...
Well, I guess that would make sense if you're in an arena. Like, if you think about it, they're used to serving big crowds like that. And that's why there's like at every half block, there's some type of food.
Yep. And even with that, they had a row of food trucks outside, and they had snack vendors all over the place, not just meal food. And
you're in Rhode Island. You get any like Rhode Island-y kind of food while you were there?
I should have, but I didn't. I kind of stuck to eating at the convention. And my first day in town, it was Thursday, so the convention hadn't started yet. And I had the rest of the afternoon to figure things out. And I went to a Walmart around the corner and got some breakfast food and some drinks for the fridge. And other than that, I didn't really venture off too much. Now, I mentioned how there's this arena attached to a convention center, attached to this ritzy Omni hotel. Attached to the hotel on the other side was the state's biggest mall, too. So I did go explore that mall for a little bit one day. My wife said the only thing she wanted was a sweatshirt that said Rhode Island on it. And I could not find one anywhere. But I finally found something. It just had to be mailed to me. It'll be here this week. For my kids needed no toys. They did not need toys. And then for like little tchotchke type collectible things, it was the same kind of stuff you can get at any convention. So I got them each a cool piece of art.
That's awesome.
Based on movies and shows and stuff they like. And oh yeah, last thing I'll talk about from this convention was meeting some cool creators. I got to meet Fabian Nicieza, who is, the co-creator of Deadpool. That was a really hilarious interaction. And I started doing this little book for creators to sign that I interact with at cons. And first of all, about this book, I'm really mad that I've been going to cons for nearly 2 decades and I haven't thought about this in the past. That book could be so full, but you got to start somewhere. And Fabian wrote on the first page, and he drew a rough sketch of Deadpool. And because it was the first page of the book, he wrote, "You never forget your first time. Most exciting 10 seconds of my life." Okay, it was fine. And then he signed it. And then
I saw that picture you sent. It's amazing.
Oh, and John Romita Jr., he signed it, and he put this little Spider-Man looking remark in there. It was really cool. I had Inker, who does a lot of Ninja Turtles and other stuff, Jeremy Clark. He signed it in green and wrote Cowabunga Dude. And Sam De La Rosa, who does a ton of Venom and things like that, he signed it. And a couple others, but man, those interactions were really cool. And John Romita Jr. just kind of exudes cool. it was cool to meet those guys.
I've heard that about him. Like, he just seems like a guy who's not a dork.
Right.
And you're just kind of like, oh, gosh. I feel like that's every time we meet any kind of nerd guy who's in this industry, but who's like not the atypical.
Right.
They seem so cool.
Right.
Because it's like, this didn't become your whole person.
Yeah.
It's only became something that you were like really like. But yeah, it's crazy to me.
Yep. And one thing before we stop talking about the con, I want to give a shout out to my friend Ben. I mentioned him earlier. It was so cool to meet him in person. And it was one of those things where we've talked for years. I listened to his podcast before we ever even dreamed of having a podcast. And meeting him in person was cool, but it was also like just catching up with an old friend that you've been friends with for a long time. It didn't feel like it was the first time we met because of all of our past interactions. So a big shout out to Ben. He did a great job moderating the panels I got to attend. And it was just cool to nerd out about Back to the Future together because it's both of our favorite movies. And yeah, it was exciting. And we'll try to have him back on our podcast at some point, and it was just a lot of fun.
Cool.
Yeah, that convention was amazing, and I don't know if I could see myself traveling alone again for something like that. That was just a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and knowing that I got to meet Michael J. Fox is what made me push myself over the edge to get to do it. And seeing him in person, quite frankly and sadly, I don't see him doing this much longer at all. And he already doesn't do it a lot. And as sad as it is, I would not be surprised, if he's not with us much longer, as sad as that sounds. So I'm very glad I did it for that reason alone. And yeah, it left me speechless, honestly, getting to meet him. So it got me all kinds of excited for the cons coming up around us. We've got Missouri Comic Con coming up in February, and then Planet Comic Con coming up in March. There's even a new one that's only been around a year or so, just called Kansas Comic Con, and it's in Topeka. And it's the week before Planet Comic Con, but they've already been announcing their guests. And right now they have the voice of the original animated Ninja Turtles. Every single one of them is going to be there, including Rob Paulson, who I've wanted to meet always. So even though that's a week before Planet, I might have to go swing over there just to meet Rob Paulson.
Yeah, I might know some people who will be at that thing.
Oh, nice. Because Topeka's not far. Not that far.
No, it's not, especially from my place.
Yep. That'd be a fun one to meet up and go to for a day.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Missouri Comic Con, they've been announcing people like John Glover and John Schneider and other folks from a lot of animated stuff, and they're not done announcing. And then, of course, Planet, they just announced this week that on November 7th, tickets are going to start going on sale, and that's also the week they're going to start announcing guests. So local folks, we're going to know pretty soon who's going to be there. And we've mentioned that we're going to do a whole Agatha All Along episode. We're going to get to that. We feel like we don't want to rush it, so we're going to probably do that one next week for you guys. But I do want to ask you, Taylor, now that you've seen the whole thing, just an overall thought. How'd you feel about it?
My overall thought was that the finale is a big giant mess, but it's good. I just think it's the whole out of sequency, and it's I don't understand why they cut it in two, and there's just a lot of weird stuff in it that I didn't really care for, like editing issues, really. But overall, I really enjoyed it, and I like how it goes into the next one.
Yeah, I liked seeing that big flashback of her coming to be who she was, and then that big reveal. Spoiler alert, guys. We're going to break down the whole series next week, but spoiler alert. When you find out the Witch's Road is not even real, the whole thing was Wiccan's projection because he's got similar powers to his mother. That was crazy.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty crazy, but it wasn't after when they revealed it. It wasn't
a big shock.
No. Especially after all the flashback and everything and realizing that's like not a thing. So it doesn't, like I said, there's like really bad editing issues in that last episode, but I like how they made Agatha a ghost, I guess.
Yeah. It was kind of sad, when her son is taken off by death at the end.
And then I like how it showed the kid walking away, but I was like, if they show that there's no kid there when she wakes up, but they showed the kid, and I was like, okay, good. It was metaphorically, you know what I mean? Because
yeah,
it was like
his spirit or whatever.
Yeah, instead of like, oh, this kid's not actually dead. He's just chilling with death.
Yeah. I did think it was cool that they used practical effects on Aubrey Plaza every time she had that skull face. I saw that on an article that I read, and they showed, her in the makeup chair. So that was kind of cool.
I think that might be the scariest visual we've gotten in the Marvel Universe.
I think so. But yeah, next week we are going to break apart the whole series, and I'm excited. There's so many cool Easter eggs that we can talk about, and it was, overall, I think it's one of the best things that's came from Marvel in a little while.
Yeah, I would say Well, what came out before this?
Okay, so if we rewind a little bit, the recent stuff we got was The Marvels, and then season 2 of What If, and then we got Echo, and then Deadpool.
Echo.
Yeah,
I liked Echo.
I liked Echo too. And then we got Deadpool and Wolverine, and now we got Agatha, and a few things to come in the next couple of months. The soonest thing we're going to get is December 3rd, we're going to get What If season 3, and that's already looking pretty cool.
I can't believe that we're getting another season of that show.
I know, I'm so excited. And there's big rumors that we're going to see some X-Men characters in it.
I mean, they need to start doing it more often.
Yep. And the rumors they've been throwing out alone just from this past week are insane. We could do a whole episode on that. So I'm sure in the weeks to come, following our Agatha breakdown episode, we're going to have some Marvel rumor salad for you guys because there is so much going on right now. It's crazy.
Well, speaking of that, the finale, what did you think about the trailer at the beginning of the finale?
Yeah, we got
The
that
What's
trailer.
to Come trailer.
Yeah, and the standout stuff for me was, I think it had What If in it, right? A little bit.
What if Marvel Zombies?
Yeah, the What If Marvel Zombies and the Daredevil Born Again stuff and the Ironheart. I think it's going to be some good stuff coming.
And Spider-Man, which is
Yeah,
it?
the Spider-Man freshman
Is it?
year. Is that what they're calling it still?
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, they're spoiling us, man.
That Ironheart suit looks cool.
It looks so cool.
I was very, very like skeptical about that suit, and now I like seeing it, just being like, "Whoa, that thing's cool."
Yeah, it's gonna be good, and I'm excited to see what else from the Iron Man world of movies they might bring in. Because obviously we don't have Tony Stark, but do you think we'll see Happy? Maybe Pep? Who knows?
Yeah, and then they had the Wakanda show.
Oh, yep, Eyes of Wakanda. Is that what they're calling it?
Which I think is going to be like vignettes of different like Wakandan characters.
Yeah, kind of like the way Star Wars did Tales of the Jedi. It's looking good. I can't wait to see it. I still have not gone and seen Venom yet, and it's just because of the sheer amount of busyness I've had. So I'm going to try to go see it this week. I have a friend that saw it and said the 2 post-credit scenes make it worth it. The movie itself is very entertaining, but those 2 scenes at the end 100% make it worth it.
Interesting.
So yeah, I'm going to try to go see it this week if I have time.
Maybe I'll go spoil it for myself. I don't know if I'll get time to go see it before the next podcast, but I will see it eventually.
Yeah. And you're going to go see Joker too, right? I kid, but as poorly as that did, it's actually come to streaming this month, so
We'll watch it so you don't have to.
yeah, we'll be those guys, your entertainment interceptors.
We did it for Morbius, we can do it again.
Right? It's Morbin time.
It's Morbin time again.
Yeah, it's
Even
no
though
joke.
even though it's Morbin music, Morbin time made more money now,
Yeah.
which is unbelievable.
Yeah, anyone who wants to see that movie, you can pay for it and stream it. But if you don't want to pay for it, January 2025 is when it comes to HBO Max. So I guess we got 2 more months we can see it for free.
Yeah, goodness.
And I feel a little nerd guilt that I'm in no rush.
Yeah, I finally gotten to that point where I don't feel like I need to see every one of these things that comes out.
Yep, it's weird.
It is weird.
I do feel bad about Venom because I do want to see it.
I want to see Venom. I know that it's not going to be an amazing movie, so I'm not. If I go in with like low expectations and like low everything, then I did see one movie this week. I forgot to tell you. I saw Piece by Piece, that Pharrell
Oh, yeah.
Lego biopic. It's on Amazon. You can rent it,
Oh, cool.
and it's amazing.
Very nice. Did Miles love it? Or did you guys watch it together?
Oh, we watched it together. He watched it for about 20 minutes. It's very much a documentary. It's
Oh,
just
okay.
made out of Legos.
That's really fun, actually.
And it's made by the guys who made like the Lego movie and all the others. So it looks incredible. And the cameos, the amount of people who are in it is stupid. It's everyone. And then there were supposed to be scenes with Mr. P. Diddy in it.
Oh.
They're not in. He completely got removed from the movie.
Well, that's the
Amazing
wise choice.
Amazing what digital can do.
Yep.
But I definitely recommend you guys watch it, even if it's just you and Emily.
Yeah.
I think you'll really enjoy it.
Well, hey, that's about it for this week. You guys make sure you come back next week when we break down every episode of Agatha All Along with you. But as for us here at the Taylorverse, I've been Billie Taylor.
Yeah, I'm Taylor Oxner.
And come back next week, guys. Same Taylor time, same Taylor channel.
Bye.
Bye.